to the Game Professor podcast, where the students have taken over. We profess our love and hate for all things video games. Got a pretty short lecture lowdown for you today, so we're going to get right into it. We have two challengers appearing in the RAM game, one old, one new. Intel hires an ace and then lays down a dead man's hand. LG and Sony agree that there is such a thing as too much resolution. It turns out that there will be no more creation for Intrepid Studios, just ashes. AMD makes announcements for Microsoft and Valve. We hope you enjoy the PlayStation 5, as it looks like that's what you'll be getting for a while, but maybe a new controller. Overwatch craves attention and buys a new outfit. Nvidia breathes life into some old games. And Haru rants about Cairns. I mean, a game called Cairn.
Holy crap, Plague. Anyways.
Oh, man. Alrighty. And one interesting small tidbit. Apparently Final Fantasy VII Remake Part 3, because if you didn't need a game that could have been more of a mouthful, they're sticking with Unreal Engine 4. The development team basically said that they've done extensive custom modifications to that engine for their needs over the last decade, so they're very familiar with it and like what it offers and don't want to spend the time, asset management, development, resources, whatever you want to throw at it, to switch to UE5. Plus, I mean, the game looks fine. Like, it doesn't need it. It looks perfectly fine. Not to mention that they do also agree that Unreal Engine 4 tends to run pretty smoothly as well. Shocker there.
Yeah, I feel like I've seen Unreal Engine 4 run significantly better than Unreal Engine 5 in every implementation that I've ever seen.
Well, except for, like, I think Arc Raiders is, like, Unreal Engine 5. But
it might be.
I'm pretty sure that team spent a lot of time making sure that the game ran efficiently. So probably, I think it's easier with less resources to make an Unreal Engine 4 game run smoothly at this point than Unreal Engine 5. But of course, over time, that may change. Especially when no one can buy new GPUs, so people have to do it. All right, just a quick segment there. We're going to get right into the meat of it with Business and Econ. All right, we're always in over our heads when it comes to Business and Econ, but we're still going to chat about it. One of the new players entering the memory space is going to be some domestic production from China. It's going to be China's CXMT, which is aggressively courting gamers by selling RAM modules at $138, which is obviously very cheap comparatively. They're bypassing sanctions despite ongoing trade tensions, and they've successfully scaled 16 nanometer DRAM production and is currently pursuing a $4.2 billion IPO in Shanghai to expand its fabrication capacity. It's not just a budget alternative. They've officially entered the high-end market as well with DDR500 8,000 mega transfer sticks. So, potentially, there'll be some good competition. We always say competition is good.
Yeah, that's true. Competition is good.
I mean, because if everybody can buy Chinese RAM for half the cost, I can tell you what I'll be buying.
Oh, yeah. Same.
Because even if it dies halfway through for whatever reason, well, I could just buy another set and it'll still be cheaper.
I mean, even then, if I buy that cheaper RAM at like Micro Center or something, and it dies, they're just gonna give me new sticks.
You're not wrong.
So as long as the places that are important actually carry the RAM, that it'll get bought. That's the reality.
You're not wrong. Speaking of competition, I mentioned an oldie entering back into the RAM market, so we could even have more competition. Apparently, Intel is looking at getting back into the market by partnering with SoftBank's subsidiary Memory is how I'm going to say that. As they're going to try to commercialize Z-angle memory, or ZAM. Intel actually left the market exactly 40 years ago after they were forced to exit due to Japanese competition. Ironically, SoftBank. So, I guess if you can't beat them, join them. So the goal for ZAM would be to so it's essentially what it is, especially on the high bandwidth memory kind of market. So it's not necessarily for us, but another player in that market would mean probably freeing up memory production for us anyways. And essentially it's a DRAM architecture that's stacked. So it should provide about 2 to 3 times the capacity of today's high bandwidth memory while cutting the power consumption by 40 to 50%. So if it works as intended, this is definitely something that data centers would absolutely buy up in droves. The prototypes are scheduled for 2027, 2028, so just like a lot of things, doesn't help us anytime soon. And it's apparently utilizing Intel's next generation DRAM bonding to create those monolithic like silicon blocks. So the Z in Z angle refers to a Z axis stacking, so a vertical stacking. This Z-angle approach significantly reduces thermal resistance, as we already mentioned, for much higher layers of memory stacking. Early tests show about 8 functional layers without any overheating. The process uses copper-to-copper hybrid bonding, essentially fusing the layers into a single piece of tech granite rather than separate stacks. So you're going to want to kind of imagine this, if you're not techie, like a stack of kind of American cheese. Those layers that you have, it's each going to basically be a set of RAM. Functionally, if you are a techie, this is essentially Intel Lake CPUs as the precursor, so where you're actually starting to stack those processes and nodes into a single kind of chip. So I'm not sure we'll see this in the consumer side, but if it makes a huge impact on the business side, at least it should free up consumer memory for us, which would be fantastic. Agreed. I would be interested if it does do a really good job if we start seeing it in GPUs, because that could be super cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, because, I mean, it's something that I'm not sure you're going to necessarily be able to throw on nicely to a consumer stick just because of what it is.
Right.
But you could incorporate it into the PCB of a GPU. So, like, that could be super cool.
Yeah, I feel like the whole form factor design of how we have DRAM sockets laid out they would have to change for ZAM RAM. That's what I'm going to call it.
I mean, there's already been discussions about how to make RAM more efficient, i.e. by like reducing the distance in lanes from the actual CPU itself, potentially just having motherboards with it soldered and incorporated.
Right.
So I don't know how you could incorporate something like this, but if you could, it could definitely be efficient, especially if it's as heat efficient as it is, and you don't necessarily need as much of a heat sink for it. So,
yeah, I mean, most RAM as of now doesn't use heat sinks. I mean, granted, the ones that us gamers buy tend to, because they also tend to have RGB on them, and I mean, you're also suckers for that.
Well, I was like, the GPUs definitely do.
Yeah. But RAM,
SODIMM does not. You're looking at those kind of like laptop memory sticks.
I mean, standard DRAM doesn't really either.
Yeah, but standard DRAM is usually, not always, but usually in a server configuration that has a large volume of airflow.
Yes.
So you don't necessarily need the heat sink because you have so much air moving through the system anyways.
Yeah.
But who knows? So could be cool. We'll see. Again, like starting productions 2027, 2028. So 2030, maybe we'll see something.
Pretty much.
Maybe the console generation after this next console generation, we'll see it. Because that would be also a perfect use case, is, in actual consoles or small NUCs or pre-built type stuff.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Speaking of Intel, though, they also hired the quote AMD hitmaker, which is I want to say Rohit or Hot Verma. Is that how you think I can go with that? Is that the name?
Yeah, I would go with Rohit.
Yeah. Okay. Perfect.
Maybe Rohit. I don't know.
Rohit. That could be it. Rohit. And if you know how to pronounce it and you want to put the enunciation in any sort of comment, feel free.
I'll
the rest
pin it.
of us. He is basically who was the lead discrete GPU architect, is credited for several of AMD's greatest hits, including the RDNA architecture, which catapulted AMD into competitiveness again. So Intel maybe has a really nice guy on their side now. However, I would point out that Intel moving away from Leisinger, who was the guy that was really pushing for the high-end discrete GPU competition in the marketplace, and was replaced by Lip Baotan, who has implemented an AI-first restructuring strategy, means that even though this is a great hire and it looks like they're going to be competitive, at least from a gamer standpoint, has already decided to shoot themselves in the foot immediately. As of yesterday, today being February 4th, they have canceled the reports from various credible places. So could still not be true, but I kind of believe that it would be. Have canceled Big Battle Mage, which was or Intel Arc B770, which was supposed to be a mid to high end card competing with NVIDIA 50 series cards in that same category. So that would have been awesome.
Card.
That would have been sweet.
Yeah, it definitely would have been, but like which card? Are we talking like 5060s?
Mid to high end. So I would assume
mid to high end.
So I would assume 5070 or 5070 Ti to 5080 is kind of where I assume it would fall, somewhere in there.
I would be surprised if they were able to pull that out of their ass.
Well, they're not, because it's canceled. Right. So, and you know what they're pivoting to? And I believe that the card could have probably existed, because what they're pivoting to is a card for high-end workstations. AI workstations to be specifically. Yay, just the best. The high-end BMG-G31, so that silicon that apparently existed, is being repurposed into Arc Pro B70s, which will be 32 gigs of VRAM, although DDR6, not 7, for affordable AI workstations. So, yay. What's so much.
What's affordable in that conversation? What are we talking about when it comes to affordable? Like, I know that a lot of those workstations, especially artistic workstations, they tend to be 10 grand plus.
I mean, affordable. You don't have
sick.
You don't have 10 grand just falling out of your butt cheeks anywhere.
I mean, I might, but that's not really the point.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know what affordable is either. I assume affordable compared to the competition, i.e. a NVIDIA GPU, which we all know is insanely expensive. But by the end, I'm going to have you complimenting NVIDIA. By the end of this course, I'm going to have you complimenting NVIDIA.
I doubt it.
I am. I'm going to have you complimenting them by the end of this course.
All right.
So, the cancellation obviously attributed to financial viability issues caused by DRAM shortages and the higher profit margins found in the AI sector. I'm going to laugh if Intel ends up being so late to the party again that they've repurposed this high-end gamer GPU, which with NVIDIA pulling out, could have probably been a hit on the market if it was at all functional and fine, to focus on an AI workstation GPU just for the bubble to burst.
Be freaking hilarious. And honestly, I hope that's exactly what happens, because there are so many companies out there now that they refuse to spend money to make money.
Yep.
Like, they want every single product that they drop to double its profits.
To immediately be the big hit. They
Exactly.
expect everything to immediately be that big hit that everybody wants.
These companies aren't satisfied with the 4 to 10% profit margin anymore. They want 100% profit margin.
What I don't understand is Intel literally has a chance to do to NVIDIA what AMD did to Intel for CPUs.
Yep.
Intel stagnated on CPUs, were expensive, and weren't offering good value for money. And NVIDIA comes along with, speaking of which, RDNA, and some very, very good gamer GPU or CPUs that people bought in droves. So much so that we mentioned the other week about how they've clawed back a huge chunk of the market share from Intel. And Intel is at a moment right now with NVIDIA basically shifting to AI production and cards becoming so abhorrently expensive that it becomes unaffordable for most people, that they could release a mid to high range GPU, and if it was reasonably priced, it doesn't even have to be affordable. If it was reasonably priced and didn't suffer from the same constant problems that the last generation has suffered from, which they have improved heavily from to this point.
Yeah.
Instantly could be a success. Won't be the obvious success NVIDIA is having in the AI market side, but nonetheless would be a success. And this could be their way into the market to claw this market share away. Especially because I haven't added it in here, but the rumors are that AMD cards are going to increase by 10 to 15% from board partners. So you could be competition in the market. You are primed to be a good alternative with this. But they're not going to even learn from what was done to them. And
well, even then, like in that same realm, right? If they stay in the GPU market, they build a following, and then all of a sudden you solidify this Z-angle memory, you throw that onto your GPUs.
Oh, yeah.
And then all of a sudden it just takes off.
Yeah,
because
you could pioneer that. Oh.
Exactly. You can sell us cards with 64 gigabytes of memory that use half the power of NVIDIA's 32 gig.
I was going to say, a high-end card that doesn't need the 12-volt power connector, potentially one or two 8-pin connectors, and that's it.
Insanity.
And you've nailed it. So again, assuming it's functional, not full of bugs, instantly take off. I'm not saying I would switch because I just, I'm on new hardware, but like it would. Yeah. If I was in the market for a GPU, it would definitely be attractive.
Yeah, absolutely. Now, granted, I know that they're not really starting production, or really not even starting the prototypes until 2027. But if they just fall off the GPU spectrum, then no one's going to keep paying attention. And if no one's paying attention, then you're going to release an amazing product out of the blue, and no one's going to have any fucking clue. Or they're just not going to trust you.
Correct.
Because everything else that Intel has done has been crap. There's tons of Intel CPUs that have literally just been dying. Like, because of failed code, it literally overloads individual cells of the CPU and just slowly dies.
Yep.
Like, And people are going to absolutely attribute that to their GPUs if they fall out of the market and then try to come back.
True. You don't want the Google moniker for new software or hardware.
Yeah, exactly.
Like, no one that I know would invest in any sort of Google hardware unless it was literally some market disrupting thing that you had to have. If it was any sort of like cool thing, but it's like, yeah, that's cool. I'm like, I'll wait and see if it exists in 18 months.
And to be clear, you're not talking about like Android, which is Google. You're talking about Google.
I mean, potentially, there's been quite a few Android-supported things that they've put out, like I've already forgotten the name of it, but the gaming thing that they had that I know, I don't even remember the name, dude, but they had a whole gaming box with a Google controller that, like, yeah, again, it doesn't exist in, yeah, I'm not talking about the phones, but they do so many things, Android or not.
Yeah.
Or even some Android specific software stuff that they just EOL in a year or two because they're like, eh.
Yeah. Oh, I definitely agree. But I mean, that's the same statement that I had previously. These companies, they want to release a product and then just hit it big.
Yep.
On that initial release. They don't want to build a following. They don't want to put in the work.
Or be competitive in the space,
Yeah.
Get it up, yeah.
Exactly.
Especially because if you're in the space and have a competitive product and your competitor stumbles, that's your opportunity to take the market share you want.
Yep, exactly. And with NVIDIA's prices and the fact that they're pushing more and more towards AI focus, someone who's pushing for raw power, like, that would have sold most gamers.
Yep, absolutely would.
As long as their drivers weren't shit.
True. All right. Well, you know what gamers aren't buying?
So many things.
They aren't buying AK TVs or monitors.
I wonder why.
So, as we go through this, I think we can both agree that this ends up being a no shit Sherlock moment.
Yeah.
Because while you can make an 8K TV, and I remembered like the 50 series announcement where they're like, it can run 8K at 60 frames or whatever it was.
Yeah.
Like, cool, that exists and you can make that display, but literally everything outside of the TV itself can basically not do 8K.
Yeah.
So there's no point in owning an 8K TV because nothing can service it. And we'll get into that, but specifically late January, LG confirmed that it officially has halted production of all 8K panels, including OLED, LCD, and this comes on the heels of Sony doing it last year in 2025. So the only company left in the market space right now is actually Samsung making those displays. And I would have to imagine that if they stay in that market, they're heavily cutting it down production to just a few. I mean, because if you're the only one in the market, you could probably sell enough, assuming you scale back production to make it worth it. But I doubt it.
But even then,
no reason.
It kind of goes back to what I was saying. If you just leave a market, how are you going to make a name for it?
True.
When it all of a sudden becomes important, when the next breakthrough in GPUs happens, like potentially Z-angle memory, right? So like when the next breakthrough of GPUs happen, of graphical processing actually happens, we're going to eventually want to go up, right?
Here's the thing though. I think there's going to be so much lead up to that you could start back up production. So I do think there's a little bit of a difference here that you could see the writing on the wall a little bit more of that, which is why, again, we'll get into it, which is why I think it's funny that there was such a push into 8K because all the signs pointed to it not being viable in the first place, which just makes me laugh.
Yeah.
So yeah. So anyways, it's basically on indefinite suspension. They haven't necessarily literally canceled everything, but they're not producing them anymore. So it's all suspended. So leading to that, as we said, they could start up production at any point in time. It's just not going to happen.
Yeah.
So I kind of would like to point out that I think a lot of this happened because there was such a push for 8K cameras, which I think 8K cameras make sense for a couple of reasons. And one, my coworker actually pointed out to me at work, which is with 8K, you can frame off a portion of the actual image and still pretty much have a 4K image.
Yep.
On top of that, my thought process is also you have 8K footage that you can high res years from now and resell a product, right? Here's the 8K version of it. So for cameras, it makes sense to me. So I think that's kind of where maybe that fervor was coming from, as everyone was trying to get the 8K cameras, the 8K Red cameras and the Sony cameras and all that kind of stuff. So I think the problem is that none of that applies to the consumer.
No. No, it's all on the business side.
Yeah. I mean, so my like a 5090 can technically do 8K at 60 frames.
Sure.
That's never going to happen. In a
You
very
can't do it
small
with or without frame gen.
With or without frame gen. That's a good question. Does DLSS support 8K?
I doubt it.
That would be kind of nuts. I mean, maybe you could play Dispatch at 8K. Like,
oh man.
I here's the point. Like, nothing's gonna run at 8K. I can barely run a lot of games between 60 and 100 frames at 4K on a 5080. So like, you're not gonna get any sort of gaming that's gonna take advantage of that. Like almost nil. And on top of that, do you know what your cables can actually support?
No.
Yeah, well, so far, we still have GPUs that are on DisplayPort 1.4.
Yeah. That I know.
So, you're not getting 8K.
Nope.
And there is an HDMI 2.1 port, which you could, with the heaviest level of compression, technically get like 8K 30 frames. Like, technically. But you're not going to do that. It's going to look terrible. It's not really going to function. And again, like, literally highest level of compression, barely get 30 frames. So, like, your cabling doesn't support it. The ports on most of the displays don't support it. Although, technically, there is a high enough DisplayPort model that exists that could support the basic version of it. But again, nothing has it. So, not even your hardware is necessarily going to do it well. So it can't run it. You don't have the ports or the cabling to support it. And none of your movies or TV shows support it. Whether or not it's physical hardware Blu-rays or streaming, none of it supports 8K.
Yep.
So why on God's green earth would you ever buy an 8K display when there is because without all of those being in sync, you're not going to be able to do anything that's 8K.
Well, and it's cart before the horse, right? Because like the camera makers did it correctly, right? They are the horse per se. So you make the cameras that can do the 8K, then you make the hardware that can actually process the 8K, and then you make the peripherals that can actually display the 8K, right? That's the cart. The cart is the peripherals that can display it. Yeah. You missed a step.
100%. I don't think there's any problem with them doing the research, design, and making sure all this functions. That's the whole point of prototyping and designs and CES. And if you wanted to do very small production runs, just to be like, it exists, here's have some fun, because you never know who's going to do something cool with this stuff, all of that's fine. but there was no way that this was ever going to succeed on the consumer market anytime soon.
Yeah.
I mean, people are barely starting to pick up 4K displays in mass now. And that's barely.
Yeah, I mean, my issue and the reason that I don't have 4K at this point is because I would rather have 140 FPS on 2K than 60 or less on 4K.
I don't mind the 60
with hard power, right?
That's fair. I don't mind the 60 frames on 4K because I have a 4K monitor for my single player games. Because I'm getting a gorgeous image. It's fine, especially because I'm not necessarily like doing very, very precise stuff on a single player game.
Yeah.
However, the problem comes from when I want to play a very twitchy, high-end multiplayer game, whether or not it's co-op and I'm doing like pixel perfect dodge stuff or shooter. And that it's obnoxious. If I were to do it again, because I really wanted to do the 8K, because they look so gorgeous, especially OLED or 8K, OLED 4Ks. They look so good.
Oh yeah.
If I were to do it again, I would just do 1440p OLED. If I had the choice to do it over, or I would pick up the monitor that they're now starting to sell that does 4K or a lower end resolution, so I could flip it for when I want to like get into a multiplayer game versus a single player experience.
Yep. Yeah, I think there's a higher chance for that dual resolution monitor to start making headway.
Yeah.
Before 8K will.
Yeah. But I mean, you're right.
There's so many people who were still running on 1080. So many people. As like you look at the we've talked about the Steam hardware survey many times, but I'm pretty sure it was like what, 60, 80, something like that, some percentage that's still running on 1080.
No, I thought, if I remember correctly, 1440p was finally starting to like match 1080p adoption percentage.
That's possible.
If I remember correctly, I thought they were both like 35% or something like that. If I remember correctly. I could be wrong, but I thought that they were kind of both getting to a similar level.
Yeah,
but
fair enough.
So, but the point being is we're just starting to get there. And you're taking a whole extra leap up. Like, I mean, does anyone who own a PlayStation 5 Pro play it on 8K? Because it technically supports it.
Okay. So I just looked at January 2026's Steam hardware survey.
Yeah.
52% of people are still running on 1920 by 1080, and only 21% are running on 1440.
Are they? I thought it was like 30. I thought I saw somewhere that was like 30.
I don't know, man. Maybe people sold their 1440.
I don't think so. I probably was thinking something else, but
probably.
Yeah. I mean, that's the point. Like, no one's doing 8K. It's just not happening.
Yep.
So, oh man. Anyway, so that's surprise to no one. It's not happening. To be clear here too, I think the argument that you can't distinguish between 4K and 8K is dumb, because that argument also existed for everything under the sun up to 4K at some point.
Everything that has to do with graphics, period. Like, you can't see more than 30 FPS, or you can't see the number of pixels that 4K provides for you. Like, no, screw off. Just because your boomer eyes can't see it doesn't mean that those of us who grew up on computers and grew up with video games and fast motion picture didn't evolve and adapt to it.
Yeah.
Like,
now, to be clear here, I don't think either of us is saying that there isn't a grain of truth in that, because sure, if you've got a 60-inch TV and you're sitting 12 feet away from it, then maybe you're not going to see the difference between 4K and 8K. But, like, that's not what we're talking about here. People are buying bigger and bigger TVs. They're sitting a foot away from their monitor. Like,
Yeah. I mean, there's a reason that like 27 to 32 inches has kind of been the staple for most gaming monitors at this point.
yeah. Yeah,
So,
especially as you get into the 1440p stuff, because at 1080p, 1440, or at 27 inches, 1440 looks way better than 1080p on that type of screen.
Yep, exactly.
So, alrighty. Well, I think that's enough of just randomly bashing on 8K adoption. Oh, all right, let's move on to lab work. Alrighty, lab work, where we analyze some recent releases. Now, Ashes of a Creation was not necessarily a release in December that any of us discussed. I didn't even know it came out.
I did.
Of course, it wasn't in my wheelhouse, so
True.
if you want to start this one off and let me know if you want me to jump in.
Oh, man. Yeah. All right, so we'll start with some history. As you were alluding to, technically Ashes of Creation released into early access in December of 2025 on Steam. We'll get into some reasons as to why that probably happened, but continuing on with the history lesson, the project was initially initiated, yep, in 2017 via a Kickstarter campaign that raised $3.2 million from a little under 20,000 backers.
I mean, that seems like a lot of engagement and excitement for a game that are willing to put their money where their mouth is.
Yep, MMORPG gamers are desperate. Founder Stephen Sharif maintained a public narrative that the game was fully funded by his personal wealth. As someone who followed the game for quite a while, he did, in fact, mention this regularly, that he was ready to put forth $60 million of his own money. So,
wow.
The belief was that we wouldn't need anything else. Despite this, there were numerous, I'm going to call it fundraising techniques that were employed time and time again. There were tons of high-end cosmetics, limited time FOMO stuff, all kinds of things. And instead of being smart with their money, chances are they burned through it all very fast. Largely because they, I think, grew too quickly. And I'm not defending them by any stretch. We'll get into the bashing, I promise. But I think they grew too fast. I mean, they already had a really ambitious plan, right?
Yeah.
But I think a really ambitious plan that you take 10, 15, even 20 years with 100 developers rather than 250, that money goes a long way for only 100 devs versus 250. Right?
I mean, that's 100% true, but I would say even 100 is too much.
Yeah, I agree. I mostly just threw a number out there. But yeah, I think
do
you
you
could
remember
probably
how many
have...
people made Expedition 33? I think it...
No, all I remember was $10 million budget.
Found it. 30 to 34 people. So...
Well,
now, to be fair,
was it 33 people? Because I feel like it should have been.
That would have been perfect. I wish that was the case. Now, to be fair, there were contractors.
True.
And it was a very much more focused game. But to your point, 250 people is kind of a lot to have on the standard payroll.
It really is. And on top of that, there was this really, really weird scenario where instead of just stopping the growth of their company and just, being happy with what they had, they moved to a new office, which takes time away from the developers,
True.
burns a hole in your pocket when it comes to money.
Mm-hmm.
Like, that's expensive.
That's very expensive.
You can't just move for free. It doesn't work. Like, even my mom growing up, one of the number one things that she always told me, because we moved around all over the place, right? Mostly because military.
Yeah.
She reminded me over and over and over again that every time you move, you lose money.
True.
And that's even more true for businesses, because that's a lot of people to move.
And equipment.
Yep. Absolutely. And that's a lot of 9 times out of 10, you're hiring contractors for a long period of time to take care of your stuff.
True.
That's just outrageous. So anyways, their revenue structure, like I said earlier, was built upon as many continuous capital infusions as they possibly could manage. So high-tier cosmetic sales, reoccurring pre-order packages, FOMO stuff, as well as creating kind of this weird structure that kind of mirrored a multi-level marketing framework. And what I mean by that is it was, if you have, it's the whole refer a friend thing, right? Yep. Like everyone does it. Like World of Warcraft does it, Final Fantasy does it. They all have this to incentivize you to get other people into the game.
It's essentially a pyramid scheme, except that,
yes,
you're purchasing an entertainment service rather than having to turn around and sell more,
exactly,
Tupperware.
Right, or get more people into the game.
Yeah.
Whereas a lot of the other games, they tend to have a limit on how many people you can refer and bring in. They didn't.
You just start signing up anybody and everybody.
Imagine the streamers.
Oh,
who put their code out.
Yep, that's
right?
I guess that's a way to do it.
Yep, exactly. And there were a number of high-level content creators that tracked the whole progression, streamed it pretty regularly, did all kinds of things. All right. So with their operational burn rate, we believe that the studio, like I said, was maintaining 250 employees in the San Diego area, which, if anybody knows, is incredibly expensive, which means that their monthly cost was likely in the realm of $4 million plus.
Yep.
So that's definitely a way to burn through it. As a smart person, I don't know that I would have tried to set up or stand up a brand new MMO that is that ambitious in San Diego.
True.
I understand why you want to be there. That's where all the big developers are, but big developers equal big money.
Yeah, I mean it's a costly place to do business. I mean that's just the full stop. Nothing behind
absolutely.
It. It just costs a lot to do business there.
Yep, it absolutely does. And I think with today's modern age, you would have been better off doing some kind of remote work thing.
Yep. Or having a small studio based out of there and then having others based elsewhere or contract out to other studios or yada, yada, yada.
Yeah.
Rather than trying to do the whole thing out of that location.
Exactly. So throughout development of the whole game, they constantly showed off systems, right? Which, I mean, everybody in the MMO world, we love our systems. We look at something and we're like, oh, that's a great system. I'd love to engage with that because that's just who we are. We're, I don't know, monkeys. And at the end of the day, all of these systems, while they were being shown off as how they should be working, they weren't actually working. They were scripted, right? And obviously everything is a script in a game, but what I mean by that is that they had GMs in the videos actively putting in commands to make the thing happen.
Oh.
Yeah. It was that bad.
So
now
there was a person that was actually, turning the wheels on the car, huh?
Yeah, basically. So like, it mattered, and it was cool to see it, to see what was happening, and it built hype, right? Their node system was, honestly, if they got it to work, it would have been revolutionary. It would have been absolutely amazing. And it would change player-developed cities forever. But while it sort of kind of worked, now I'm wondering if it really did.
I mean, yeah, if they were doing stuff manually behind the scenes.
Well, I mean, that was just for like the show off, right? For the live
fair.
streams and stuff like that. Like once the alpha was actually released, my guess was that they weren't doing that. But at the same time, a lot of the time, like there were built-in 12-hour delays for some of these things. So like a node leveling up from 0 to 1 was pretty fast, but a node leveling up from like 2 to 3 was a 12-hour process once you hit 100% on the experience bar for the node.
Oh, okay.
Right? So it's easily possible that somebody just scheduled it on their calendar and then walked over to the node and typed in some GM command and called it a day, It's absolutely possible. I think it would be ridiculous and a waste of money, but here we are.
I mean, there's lots of waste of money here. So.
Exactly. At the exact same time in 2019, there was this weird Project Divergence, which was... It was one of those things where you're like, this whole thing doesn't really work, but the shop does. Right? When you look at a beta of a game and you see that there's a shop button that you can click on and all the microtransactions function, but the game itself does not, red flag. That was Ashes of Creation Apocalypse. It was right around that time where BRs, Battle Royales, were just really popping.
Yeah, because that was basically the Modern Warfare remake, Warzone Battle BR was huge.
Exactly. I'm hesitant to say that it was abandoned because of early developmental instability. When they released Apocalypse, they got a lot of flack saying, this isn't what we paid for. This isn't what you're supposed to be spending your time on.
I was going to say, why are the resources that we funded going to this?
Correct. That was what they got a lot of flack for. And when they canceled it, they mentioned that that's pretty much the reason they got rid of it. Now, I think personally they should have stuck to their guns because Ashes of Creation Apocalypse was supposed to be effectively a combat test. Right? It was going to have all the same design that the actual MMO was going to have in terms of combat.
I mean, I think both things can be true. I think you shouldn't have spent your time on this. I do also think that if you already did, then it makes no sense to now waste the resources that you've spent on it.
Yeah,
so
exactly.
Two bad decisions don't make a right decision.
Yeah, pretty much, unfortunately.
Now, to be fair, I do agree with you that if you're testing combat, you could do something with it, but it does sound like they fleshed this out a little bit more than it needed, per se, to just test it.
Yeah, they definitely did. I think it could have been used as a marketing tool as well.
Sure.
right? Like, look at this awesome combat in this BR. This same combat's going to be available in an MMO soon.
You'd have to have the uh, wit/confidence to actually pull that off and tell people that's what's happening.
True.
Because, I mean, to your point, you could have come out and said, hey, yeah, we spent a little extra resources on this, but we're using it as a testing platform. We only had to add a little bit extra stuff around this. The base combat that we're developing in this is going to be in the game.
Yeah.
But
yeah, absolutely.
Considering everything that happened, it doesn't seem like this group is capable of that. So,
I mean, it's strange because there were a lot of big name devs that were in on this project.
fair.
That's why when everyone says that this was a rug pull, I'm not sure that it was. Because, like, I mean, obviously,
I mean, at the
devs,
end, it definitely seems that way.
At
but
the end,
probably
it
not
definitely
from
seems like it
beginning.
was planned at a certain point, right? They were like, okay, this is how we're going to get out of this situation.
Yeah.
But I don't think when it originally released or when it originally became a Kickstarter, I don't think it was intended to be this way.
I think that's
And
fair.
everyone says that, you know, they stole a bunch of money or whatever, whatnot. But if they were hemorrhaging $4 million a month, did they make anything? Because I doubt it.
I mean, maybe a few people at the top, but we'll get into that later.
Yeah, for sure. So then there was this weird creditor siege and financial insolvency. The concrete indicators of insolvency emerged in 2025 through legal and financial filings. The cloud infrastructure litigation came through for SATA Systems LLC, which filed a lawsuit alleging Intrepid Studios failed to pay close to $1 million, roughly $850,000, for infrastructure services between April and September of 2025. So, I mean, that's just a terrible thing. If people have the money, why isn't it being used? Right? So
Yeah.
I'm leaning towards money don't exist.
And you could, at this point, theoretically, knowing what has happened, maybe they were just trying to get across the finish line. Something that they could put out at this point, because this is the latter half of 2025. So
yeah, exactly. So then you have this what is this Uniform Commercial Code filings revealed that assets including intellectual property and source code were pledged as collateral, which is insanity. Cairn Barreco, a former associate of Sharif from the MLM industry, was named as a primary secured creditor in January of 2026. So last month, people. So before we get into the Steam launch, I want to get your opinion on early access. Okay?
Sure.
Not legal opinion.
Mhm.
Personal opinion. Would you consider a game that came out on Steam in early access as a fully launched product?
No.
Okay.
No.
I'm
An
glad we
early
agree.
access game indicates to me that you are working on the game. And
Yes.
if you now, games will never not be worked on, right? I mean,
Sure.
Arc Raiders has come out and they're constantly working on it.
Yeah.
But my definition, and I think this closely aligns with the Steam definition, is that if it's in early access, it means that it is not in a fully functioning and playable state to what is expected of the game when it is fully released. So
Yep.
it needs to be in a state where if it comes out and there is no more done to it, no more updates, no more content, you can look at it and say, this is a full experience. This is a full game in this state. Sure, could there be more? Absolutely. But in this state, it is a full game. That's what it needs to be.
Yep. I mean, I agree with you. So the Steam launch and the studio dissolution. On December 11th of last year, 2025, the game launched into Steam Early Access for a little under $50, generating an estimated $12 million in short-term liquidity. Impressive, to say the least. I mean, that kind of proves that people were interested.
Yeah.
Yeah. Like, there was enough there that you put the price down at a low enough number that it would have been fine. And I think the most ridiculous part is that if they just shrunk the world and released the game as is and started charging a subscription, which is what their intended financial model was going to be, I wonder where we'd be. Because I've played it, right? Obviously, I played Ashes of Creation. That's why I'm the one talking about it and not Plague.
Yeah.
And I think there was enough of a game there initially. I think the biggest issue was that the max level was 25. And that didn't take very long to get to. It's an old school game. It's very grindy, but I mean, that's fine for an MMO. It's whatever. But it really does sound to me like they ran out of money, but we'll get into reasons why no one thinks that. So with their release into Steam Early Access, legal analysts are saying that this launch may have been a tactic to fulfill the technical definition of launching, thereby potentially exempting the studio from the original Kickstarter refund promises. I think any smart judge is going to be all like, no, you still need to refund them.
I mean, here's the thing. It depends on what you can prove legally, right?
Sure.
I don't think that early access is obviously a fully released game. Steam literally puts up a games in early access are not complete and may or may not change further. If you are excited to play this game in its current state, then you should wait to see if the game progresses further in development. So, like, that's a warning that Steam puts out on every early access game. And if you go and read more, it talks about how early access games are games that are kind of being released to grow with the community and involved, and that they may not develop any further, but they are in development. And literally there's a question of when will these games release, and Steam says it's up to the developer to determine when they are ready to release. So by definition, I would say to Steam's own page on early access, it shows that while the games may be out, they aren't really classified as actually released. And it follows up with, you should be aware that some teams will be unable to finish their game.
Mm-hmm.
Meaning that you have not gotten a finished product that was promised.
Yep. I think if there's any one thing that will legally come back to bite them in the ass, it is going to be their early access statements. If you look at Ashes of Creation's actual page on Steam right now, it says, under the will the game be priced differently during and after early access? And it says, I quote, when Ashes of Creation completes the early access phase and is a fully launched game, it will transition to a monthly subscription model, reflecting its status as a live, evolving MMORPG supported by ongoing development, updates, and new content.
Yep.
They admit themselves that it's not fully launched.
Yep. And by Steam's definition of early access, where they talk about how the game isn't released, I don't think you can classify early access as a fully launched game.
Yeah. I don't think that this will save them. I think any smart lawyer is going to pull up this page or a screenshot of this page and be like, they say it's not fully launched right here.
Yep.
And
And
then
Steam
they're screwed.
also says the state that it came out in is not a fully launched game.
Correct. Yeah, exactly. All right. So continuing on here, on January 31st of 2026, Stephen Sharif resigned, citing an inability to support the actions of a newly emerged board of directors. The operational shutdown happened on February 2nd, and the studio issued mass layoff notices via the WARN Act, stating that it could not meet its most recent payroll. So the company didn't have money.
Yeah, that's what it sounds like.
Did somebody walk away with the money? We'll get there. So the immediate financial fallout for the staff honestly kind of sucks. Because that means that 250 plus workers were laid off with no severance and no payout for their PTO, no paycheck that they could have expected, all kinds of things. And that's insane. And also the health insurance for those workers was immediately terminated, which is insanity to me. Like, what?
Yeah. I mean, they're supposed to technically honor it, and it doesn't look like they're doing that. So,
yeah,
for at least 60 days.
Yeah,
but
during the 60-day WARN Act period, blah, blah, blah. Yeah. The company is allegedly not honoring this financially, which, I mean, they can't. If they cannot viably honor it financially, how are they going to? They can't even pay the employees, let alone take care of their freaking health insurance. Which, I mean, if you had to pick one, I think I'd rather you take care of my health insurance, but here we are. The former director of communications, Margaret Crone, has launched an industry-wide Intrepid Studios job fair and a public spreadsheet to help the displaced developers find immediate work at other studios. I like Margaret. Everything she said sounded really genuine, and seeing her ex post was really sad, honestly. And now, obviously, like, she's a director of marketing and communications. Like, the way that she's going to phrase things is obviously going to make people feel some type of way, right? Mm-hmm. That's her job, literally.
But there are also people that could just cut and run, too.
Yes, there absolutely is. And she could have just said nothing, right? Which...
Or said, I don't know anything.
Yeah. Exactly. And to be fair, she did basically say she has no idea what the hell happened, despite being a director.
Well, I mean, I'm not necessarily going to expect the communications director to necessarily know all the financials of the operations of the studio.
Yeah, for sure.
But it's a fair point that you think that she might sit on a couple meetings here or there. But if they were being shady, they might not have included anybody. So,
yep. So, here comes the interesting part. In November of 2025, property records indicate that Stephen Sharif transferred his multi-million-dollar San Diego residence to an LLC that is tied to John Moore, who is the CFO of the company. So the thing that's weird about this...
An LLC being limited liability. So,
yeah,
like, basically putting it somewhere where supposedly it can't be touched.
I don't think that'll stand.
There's lots of ways to get around it, but it obviously just makes it more difficult.
Yeah, sure.
Whether or not it's possible would be up to the courts, but you do that type of thing so that it's not something that can be immediately clawed back.
Yeah, that's fair. But yeah, I mean, that's exactly what happened, right? He is trying to shield that property from being taken from him, if not immediately, at least not in the immediate future, right?
Yeah.
Because if people are coming for your money, they're coming for your money, one way or another. If they have to sell your multi-million-dollar residence to be able to get it, they're gonna do it.
Yeah, but here's the thing. you can't just do that because he's done it to an LLC, because the
Yeah, no.
LLC is the owner. So it's not his residence that they're selling to get money from, which is why it becomes messy, because you have to prove that it was all done in bad faith, which adds an extra level of complications, unfortunately.
Yep. It absolutely does. But at the same time, I don't know. It's a weird scenario, in my opinion, that I don't see going very well for them. It looks shady, plain and simple. And anyone in the court is gonna say exactly that. Like, what? Now, we'll go on to the board members, the quote unquote board members here in a minute. But there was some leaked communication early this month that revealed that Sharif was disparaging community content creators, referring to long-term testers as doomers and jackasses. Which, I mean, have you looked in a mirror, Steven?
Well, hold on. So they were testers. They weren't players.
Ah, true. Got him. Yeah. I mean, look, there are tons of people who supported this game for a very long time. They nearly made $4 million in the Kickstarter. So you have a lot of people who put a lot of time into this and a lot of money into this. There were whole communities that were built around the hopeful existence of this game.
True.
And at the end of the day, you kind of stopped following your roadmap.
I mean, I don't have it on here, but there were people on those early backers that donated like 10 grand.
Yeah.
The early access stuff. A lot of people were invested in this game from its beginning and following it the entire time.
Correct. Now, the problem is that they wouldn't be doomers and jackasses if your game didn't scope creep into oblivion.
Mm-hmm.
And instead, you just focused on your primary product and then moved on.
So what you're saying is this is Star Citizen without the $1 billion.
Yeah. I mean, the thing is, though, is that, like, Star Citizen is still going, which is weird.
I mean, that's because of the $1 billion of investment.
You're not wrong.
On top of all the whales buying house
all the ships.
Value skins, ships, I guess. They're not really skins. They're actual assets in game. But still, point being is it's ridiculous. But yeah, I mean, it's... I think this is the other side of it. This is why you have to have an Expedition 33 level of focus or an Arc Raiders level of focus where you're trying to do a few things. What are the most important things you're wanting to do? Is what you're doing and designing adhering to the top things that you're trying to do? If the answer is no, then you need to not spend time on it.
I mean, I think that's hard to do in an MMO, right?
I think it's hard, to be fair here, I think it's hard to do in any game.
True.
Because you want to provide this awesome experience, but you look at every game that fails. Well, not every game, but a large amount of games that fail. And you can look at the development and trace it back. One of the things like it's G4VMER on YouTube, like G4, it's supposed to be gamers, but with a 4.
Yeah.
It's a YouTube channel I love. They do full breakdowns of the rise and fall of games. And I've watched so many of their videos. And that coupled with my lifetime of following the game industry, right. A lot of the reason that games fail is because they try to do too much. They let themselves run wild and they lose focus on what they're trying to do, and they try to incorporate all these cool things, things that obviously on paper would be cool if you could implement that. But the problem is that no one has unlimited time and budget unless you're Star Citizen, but everybody else doesn't have unlimited time and budget, and so you have to adhere to those things.
Like I said, I think that would be difficult for an MMO, but I do think that there are ways that they could have pulled back on scope. As you said, they should absolutely be focusing on specific things. What is going to make their game stand out? The node system would have made their game revolutionary.
Sure.
The full PvP, like always on PvP aspect, would have been novel, right? Not amazing. Nobody really wants that, but here we are.
But could have been something done later.
Yes, absolutely. Well, no, I don't think it could have been done later.
You don't think it could have been like a 2.0?
Not with the way their game
expansion?
Was intended to be.
I mean, fair.
And then like your crafting system, it was supposed to be the end game, right? All of your end game pieces of gear were supposed to be crafted by a crafter. So people would have to actually put time and effort into this crafting system. So we've got 3 things so far, right, that I think they really should have focused on. And then I think the only other one that it kind of falls under crafting, to be honest, but it's the housing system. Specifically the land ownership system, where you could plop down a plot of land and like that's where you do most of your crafting, which is why I say it leads into the crafting thing. Like those, I think, were the big things, but instead they tried to add in sailing, and they tried to add in freaking raid bosses in the water and different ships and stuff like that. And
now that sounds like stuff you could all add in later.
Yes, exactly. Thoroughly agreed. Now, does it have to be later for free? Technically based on your Kickstarter, yes.
Well, plus you don't want to fracture an MMO community.
Right. Well,
but you know what you could sell? Skins for all of that.
Yeah, absolutely. And I don't think a lot of people would be disappointed with the skin selling. I think they might call you on the FOMO crap, but I think you would have had constant revenue with your subscription model, which again was their intention. And then with skinned microtransactions, and it was just skins. They said no pay to win ever. And just things like that, right? They scope creeped way too far, and I think they could have probably limited their class selection a little bit as well, because the problem is the way that their class was designed was very similar to, oh god, what was that game? It was called Arcade, I want to say. Yeah, Arcade, where it basically has like 48 classes or some crap. You have your base classes, right? And then you modify those base classes with other classes, right? Which is dumb, to say the least. But it leads to creativity. It leads to, impressive combinations and unique stuff like that. But ultimately, everybody just follows the meta.
Sounds like? Sounds like something that could have been done later.
Yeah.
Because look,
I think they definitely could have done it later.
I was gonna say, because like WoW adds new, not all the time, but obviously WoW updates with new classes on a fairly consistent basis. But I think that's the point here. Doing too much. Have your base classes. Nail those down. Nail the gameplay down. Nail down the things that you want to do. And then once all of that is in a good working state, then start expanding and adding extra content around it that you can now focus on testing because everything else is done.
Well, and if I pull up the Ashes of Creation wiki, assuming it actually still exists, which would be kind of wild if it doesn't, there were 8 base classes. All of those classes could be modified by 8 other classes, including themselves. So what this ended up turning into was 64 different classes that could potentially exist. And the problem is that they kind of solidified themselves into this from the very beginning because they wanted to be like ArcAge, like Lineage, like all those games that had that level of customization. But the problem is that they had a bard, a cleric, a fighter, a mage, a ranger, a rogue, a summoner, and a tank. First off, you could have just dropped the tank and it would have just been fighter, but it would have been fine. But like that's the problem, right? So the way that it was supposed to work is that you would start with one of those 8 classes as your starting class, and then at a certain level, and I can't remember what level it was, it doesn't really matter, you would pick a secondary class, and that would augment your abilities and so on and so forth, right? You would never pick another class, but you had to do like some long quest chain if you wanted to change it, whatever, right? The point is that they forced themselves into 64 classes at launch, which is a terrible idea. That's way too much. I don't even think they ever got to the secondary class stage in development at all. I don't know if they were working on it. They probably were. But yeah. Anyways, so let's talk about the IP itself. Because, as I've said, there are people who were excited for this game. There were tons and tons of people who were actively playing this game, despite it being in early access, right? If we search it up real quick on SteamDB, they had an all-time peak 2 months ago of 31,000. Right?
For a game that's in early access, it's not bad.
There's players here, guys. There are players here. And not even just that. You look back as far as just January 20th, before a bunch of shit hit the fan. They were sitting at a 24-hour peak of 16,500. For a game that's not released, and for an MMO, that'll fill a server.
Yes, it will. Like,
the first servers of World of Warcraft could hold 1,000 people. It might actually be 10,000. I don't remember. Regardless, it's a number lower than that. It's kind of my point. So it's crazy to me that this is a thing. Like, you had people who were addicted to this game already. And it was interesting. It was a good enough game that was in beta.
Yep. It's not fully released.
Nope. But the IP itself has a ton of secured credit attached to it. So we talked about it earlier, where some of the source code was actually set up as like collateral assets. With collateral assets, that means that node system could be owned by somebody now. And if you got it into a fully working state, sure, you may have successfully revolutionized the MMORPG, but you have also failed to take credit for it. At the end of the day, right now, the Ashes of Creation IP currently remains in legal limbo because it is currently under the control of those secured creditors. What happens to it after this point would be very interesting to follow, because I do think that somebody could come in who has money, right? Offers to bring back in some of these devs, cleans it up, finishes the product in 2-3 years max, and releases it.
Sure.
And because they're an entirely separate company, they don't have to follow any of the Kickstarter crap. It's a brand new company that just now has control over this IP, so they don't have to listen to what the Kickstarter said. They don't have to stick on any of their promises.
I mean, if it actually ends up getting to that point, but
yeah, absolutely. Last thing I think, honestly, is going to be the paperboard theory. Legal researchers pointed out that despite Stephen Sharif's claims of a board takeover, California Secretary of State filings as recent as December 30th list him as the sole director and CEO, which kind of leads to the accusations that the board narrative was fabricated to deflect legal liability. Now, here's the problem with that. Unless your board members are officer-level people in the company, they don't have to be on that paper.
Yeah.
Not for a private company.
That's true.
A public company, yes, they do have to be on a paper that is filed and is public information. A private company can hold all of that information secret. We've already proven that there were secured creditors. Part of their securement of that credit could absolutely have been that one of us, someone within our sphere of influence gets a spot on the board, right? That doesn't have to be mentioned because it's not a board of directors, it's a board. Well, and even then, like, directors don't even have to be on the paper. It's only the officer level people who have to be on that paper for a private company. So it is entirely possible that the board theory is still there and could be a valid statement from him. But I think a board should have taken over like 3-4 years ago when they started scope creeping like mad and progressed the game through its development stages like it should have. That was a lot of talking. And you made me do it all, Plague.
I mean, you could have slowed down at any point. I just let you get on your soapbox and do your thing, man.
I'm passionate about this game. I've been passionate about MMOs since I played RuneScape as a youngin'.
I mean, here's the final few things. I think obviously all of this is ridiculous. There's going to be so much to like sift through between the courts and creditors, and I mean, I don't think there's going to be any money left for any of the Kickstarter people, which is a bummer. And at the end of the day, it sounds like there were actual good people that worked at the studio outside of the people that were involved in whatever the shadiness is that went down. I mean, you even saw that in-game goodbye event as the studio was shutting down. A lot of the remaining developers logged in to the live servers to send out global messages to the community. Things like, we truly did our best, out of our control. So, like, clearly there were people involved in this project that cared. I know a lot of them also did a lot of mass gifting using the administrative tools at the end there to hand out max level boosts, exclusive mounts, cosmetics, and all that kind of stuff. So, like, clearly there were people that passionate. It just seems like some people probably high up either A, couldn't manage well and it got out of control and they just lost it, or couldn't manage well and then hit it. So, like, one or the other. Don't attribute to malice what you can attribute to incompetence. So, one of two ways, right? It's either straight up incompetence or malice.
I mean, Steven knew from the beginning he was not a leader, right? He was a creative person. That's why he named himself creative director, and he was CEO because who doesn't want the CEO title? But he always had a lead producer, a lead developer who was always running that show. Now, granted, he probably had the final say as creative director, but
you also need someone in charge of financials and budget, and someone that could tell you don't have the time or money for that. Either scale down or pivot or figure it out because you don't have the budget or time for that.
Yeah, and I don't know who John Moore is to Stephen Sharif. There's tons of statements out there saying that Stephen and John are married. But I've also seen statements where Stephen is married to a woman. So I have no idea. I can't find any information on it. We literally searched for like a half hour prior to recording, and
if you
we
know,
can't find
let us
any
know.
official information. Everything always points back to some weird Reddit post about them being married, which is just weird to me. But they do clearly seem to be attached in some way, whether that be long-term business partners, whether it be through matrimony, or whether it be through, you know, anything else. Maybe he has someone locked in a dungeon. Who knows? At the end of the day, though, he wouldn't have transferred his home, his residence, to an LLC of a man who was only his financial officer, because that's who John Moore was. He was his financial officer.
I mean, it's got to be somebody that he's connected to on a pretty decent,
Some kind of personal level for sure. Whether that be a long-term business partner, who knows? But at the end of the day, I wouldn't transfer my residence into some coworker of mine, right? Except for you, you're different.
Oh, well, thanks. I would take good care of it. I would not be a squatter.
Sure, bud.
All right.
I don't know.
Well,
I hope to see Ashes do something. I hope to see it come back and rise from the grave, or rise from the ashes, as it may be. But I don't know. We'll see. We'll keep you updated, though. That's for sure.
Yeah, everything else is just guesswork at this point. If we get any new information, we'll let you know. And with that, I think we'll move on to Shop Class. Alrighty. Shop Class, where we get down into some nitty gritty of the hardware or software that's coming out. Specifically, AMD decided to spill the beans on an earnings call, talking about specific upcoming hardware for both Xbox and Valve. So supposedly, the semi-custom system-on-chip SoC for the next Xbox is on track for a 2027 release, which is faster than internal Microsoft estimates. So maybe they're going for a first mover advantage, and that comes from AMD, the one making the chip. So credible source. And basically said the same thing, except for 2026 or an early 2026 release for Valve's Steam Machine, as it re-enters kind of the self-contained PC console-ish hardware market. So yeah, those things are still coming. I mean, there was a lot of guesswork about whether or not they'd be delayed, and a lot of heavy rumors because of memory, which obviously could still happen, but I'm not sure you'd get all these chips and just let them sit there either. So
yeah, if they already had the chips, right, which is very possible.
Yeah, so I mean, we'll see. And it does make sense, Microsoft trying to basically do what they did with the 360, which is beat Sony by a year to the market, because it did let them, I mean, to be fair, outside of the Red Ring of Death, the Xbox 360, especially with the multiplayer, had a lot to offer at the market that PlayStation wasn't offering, but that year advantage absolutely did help them on top of that. I mean, the PlayStation 6 is looking to not be until late 2020s, and I mean, we'll get into it later, but there's a heavy rumor that it could potentially be like another 4 years. So if they can get out by 2027, 2028, they could take advantage of being first to the market. I mean, there's a lot of people that would have a desire for a new console, even assuming it's not terrible, assuming it's functional, good, and the games look good. I'm sure there's a lot of people that would be willing to update, especially if there was no PlayStation that was close to coming out. So
yeah.
So apparently that chip design for that SoC is moving away from a monolithic die. The quote-unquote Magnus SoC is going to be a modular chipset architecture on a 3 nanometer process. It's going to be a hybrid configuration featuring 11 cores, 3 performance Zen 6 cores, and 8 efficiency cores. Or sorry, 8 efficiency core. Sorry, I think yeah, 3 performance and 8 efficiency cores is what I'm looking at here. I kept reading that wrong.
Yeah.
Right, using RDNA in A5, Navi 5 architecture with 68 enabled compute units, which we've kind of gone over some of these kind of rumors before, so I'm not necessarily going to get into them fully. So you can go back and listen to the course where we talked about those. The big thing here, which is a rumor that we've talked about, is it's going to be essentially an Xbox running a full optimized version of Windows behind a TV focused interface. Now, the rumors we've talked about is an optimized gaming Windows experience with less overhead. So if that happens, I'd be very interested. If it's a full Windows release on an Xbox, I'm not sure I'm as interested as that. I mean, it would be really nice, I guess, for a lot of people to have a full computer gaming console. But the big thing is
Right.
a stable Windows gaming platform with less overhead would be the more interesting thing, especially if all the rumors that we've already mentioned about having access to Steam, Epic, GOG is possible, because then it would actually make sense for a lot of even PC gamers to pick this up as the living room PC. So
True.
the other big thing is a rumor that came out. This is not, by the way, these are not from the AMD earning calls. These are separate rumors that came out at a similar time. The other thing is a potential removal of any multiplayer paywall, which would also be a big advantage, especially if they go in a year earlier than the PlayStation, have the highest performance console, which is the rumor at the moment is that it will be the more powerful console, able to do PC gaming platform stores and have no multiplayer paywall. All of those things combined could absolutely thrust them back into the competitive marketplace.
It absolutely could. And I also feel like it would force Sony to do the same.
I don't know if Sony would, because of how dominant their marketplace is. I do think, though, that if their sales are heavily effective when they release, that they would quickly change their tune.
Yeah, it's very possible. I think, I mean, the only people who will never change their tune is like Nintendo, right? Because that's just who they are. But
that's because people are buying their stuff.
Yes, true. But I think that PlayStation and Xbox have enough overlap that really it's just based on controller preference at this point, and the games that release. But like Xbox doesn't have exclusives anymore, really, because
we'll pull it up. I'll pull it up maybe for the next course. But yeah, Xbox has almost no exclusives. But even then, the PlayStation 5 has like 14, 16.
Yeah,
so
it's
like
not a lot.
The day of, I mean, if you're counting stuff that comes out on PC, obviously, if you're going on console, it is a slightly more exclusives. But purely only PlayStation exclusives, the exclusives just don't exist anymore. It's not the same market. Now again, Xbox has almost none, but
give me Death Stranding 2.
It's coming. It's coming. It'll eventually come out
soon enough.
Oh man. I mean, to be fair, Xbox needs this win because a lot of outlets in the gaming space, including Digital Foundry, Windows Central, and other places, have reported that their Xbox coverage is no longer profitable. So anything they do on the Xbox is not getting any views. This segment, our listeners will go down from 10 to 1. They'll skip this segment just because they don't care.
I don't blame them.
Also, you're seeing a lot shift to handhelds as well, so you're taking away from Xbox kind of market share at that point. A loss of brand identity as they've started releasing things on multiple platforms. You already mentioned exclusives being almost none, and then also Game Pass. There's no specific things to get excited about when you can get it for, even now, its inflated price. So we'll see what happens. And this is what kind of I was referring to, is that if they do, they could potentially be out way sooner than the PlayStation 6, as the analysts are now saying the likelihood of the PlayStation 6 launching won't be until 2029 or 2030. And this comes from industry insiders and Sony CFO Lin Tao recently stating that the PS5 is only in the middle of its journey despite being 5 years old. So, if the Xbox comes out in 2027 or 2028 and the PlayStation 6 isn't coming out for a full year or two, you could see a lot of people that just get on board because they're hungry for something new.
Yeah. Well, that and if games continue to release on this new, I don't know, we're gonna call it the Xbox 2 at this point, and the PS5, the Xbox 2 is gonna have better graphics than the PlayStation version.
100%.
Right? So if people want the latest and greatest, which most of the time they do, that's what they're gonna do.
At least they want some of the latest and greatest games, right? Not necessarily all of them, but there's some of those big blockbusters that you want the shiny, pretty, ball to play with.
Yeah, except for not an 8K TV.
Yeah, and, more than 30 frames would be good.
Yeah, please, that'd be great.
Outside of that, now, to be fair here, patent filings happen all the time, and most of them, nothing ever happens. I did find this one interesting for a couple reasons. We'll get into it. But Sony has been granted a U.S. patent for a buttonless game controller, which was filed in February of 2023 and officially issued, i.e. becoming public knowledge, in January 2026. The design replaces the D-pad and face buttons and the analog sticks with basically a continuous capacitive touch interface. I immediately think of the Steam controller.
Yeah.
That's immediately where my mind goes. And while the Steam controller did not take over the industry, I do think that there were a lot of people that picked it up and were fine with it. I don't think anyone necessarily hated it. I think the biggest complaint is that it was such a departure from what people are used to that it was hard to get used to it. But from what I remember the discussions around it, it wasn't that anyone necessarily hated it or thought that it was unusable. And, they sold it for quite a long time.
Sure.
So, interesting concept. I bring it up because something like it technically exists on the market. Although this one is completely buttonless, which would be wild, as opposed to just having a couple touch surfaces. So
now what they need to do is make it completely buttonless, but then also remove the handles and make it look more similar to like an N64 controller. And make it wireless so that nobody can tell how you're supposed to hold it. That's what needs to happen next.
That was the worst. Do I hold left center right, left right? How do I don't understand.
Yeah. Yep, exactly. Or you can even go further and do the Super Nintendo controller, where it's just this, like
flat,
rounded rectangular thing.
I actually just watched a video today on old school Mad Catz hardware. And apparently Mad Catz actually made an SNES DualShock controller for the PlayStation.
What?
Yes. I had no idea this thing existed. And because this whole hour-long video that I put up at work while I was doing other stuff was just crapping on Mad Catz hardware the whole time. And yeah, he actually found one on eBay and picked it up and bought it, and he had it in his hands. And I was like, that's wild.
That is wild.
It's happened before. It could happen, I guess.
I guess.
Alrighty. Yeah, there's some interesting things you could do with it. I'm not really going to get into it. I think we'll just move on to a free period discussion. All right, free period. Anything we want. Specifically, I didn't know where to put this. It was a little too long for a lecture lowdown discussion. But Overwatch is apparently getting a soft reboot.
Again?
Did anyone have that on their 2026 calendar?
Is it Overwatch 3?
No, they're
No?
taking a page out of Microsoft's handbook and calling it Overwatch, going back in time but still new.
Well, they are owned by Microsoft now. So
Oh,
I guess this
God!
makes sense.
That's where this comes from. Oh my God. So yeah, February 10th, they're dropping the 2. It's going back to just Overwatch. And every
Am I getting
gamer
a refund?
No, nobody's getting a refund.
Sick.
What? You thought just because they're going back to Overwatch and you still don't have your PvE that you can get a refund? No. Plus, wasn't it free? Didn't it essentially go fully free to play, anyways?
Yeah, I meant my refund of Overwatch 1.
Oh, yeah, but no, that was Overwatch 1 old. This is Overwatch new.
Is that like Outlook new?
No, please no, please no.
Are Teams new?
Oh my God, dude! I got a call today from somebody at work who was like, "I'm trying to book this in my Outlook calendar, and my friend who does Outlook old, it works, but I have Outlook new and it doesn't work."
Well, there's your problem.
So my answer was, you should call the help desk anyways.
Out with the new, in with the old.
Oh yeah, so they're dropping the 2. As you've kind of already hinted at, this is ridiculous because they were moving to Overwatch 2 because you were supposed to get a PvE mode. They were changing to a 5v5 with a more kind of restricted and organized role queue system. And essentially, they're basically, as the name implies, dropping all of that, not that you ever got PvE, and going back to Overwatch 1 with slightly better graphics, and apparently, we'll get into it, but like 5 new heroes with a total of 10 at some point. So, yeah.
Only one tank.
Yeah.
It's always the tanks, man.
Even the season's getting reset, so no season 21. It's going back to season 1.
What? All right. All those, like, 10 plus years that you put into the game, none of it matters.
Oh,
Wiping
man.
it all. Now, see, I wonder, are they just going to wipe everybody's skins too?
Oh, man, people would lose their minds.
It's a license, man. You don't own anything.
100%, but they want people to play, and I guarantee you that if you wipe out their skins,
They
they
get
ain't
boycotted
playing.
so fast.
Oh, man. The one thing that I do like, which I have constantly asked for, is they will supposedly be doing annual story arcs, which is kind of what they used to do when Overwatch initially launched, where they would put out some animated shorts. Now, I don't know if they're going to get fully animated shorts or just some videos or some comics or some rough animated stuff. I don't know what's happening here, but supposedly you will be getting consistent story for the game. Great. The Overwatch universe was interesting enough. You should have been doing that. Well, I can't even say from the beginning, because you were doing it at the beginning. You should have never stopped.
Yeah, exactly. I think that Riot Games has kind of proven that you don't have to have a world that you can roam around in as an open world to create an interesting world,
No.
right? An interesting universe.
Exactly.
They proved that
Have
already.
an interesting universe with its own unique set of rules and places that are interesting, with interesting characters to drop in there. You got those things, and you can make a story.
Now, this makes me wonder, okay? This whole Overwatch new, what I'm now going to refer to it as for the end of time, is this actually just taking all of the StarCraft shooter stuff, canceling that one and bringing it into this? Because, like, if we're doing it all over again, we have to do it right?
I mean, you could be right, I guess. Maybe
that would be hilarious to me. No, I doubt that's happening. As far as we've seen, there hasn't been any announcement of the cancellation of the new StarCraft shooter.
No, I think that is at the moment still on course to happen. There was some, we talked about it, but I don't know, man. I was like, who knows at this point? Microsoft / any Microsoft subsidiary could just randomly axe something that's almost about to be released.
Yup.
So we'll see. So 10 hero expansion is coming with it. 5 new heroes will be added on February 10th. So you're going to get a lump sum hero drops, which I'm sure will not cause any balancing problems whatsoever.
It's going to be perfect, especially going back to 2 tanks. It's going to be great. Are they... Oh, the tanks were divided, DPS is divided, support's divided. Are they still forcing the 2 tanks, 2 healers, 2 DPS thing?
I don't know. I would assume so. Because I would find it hard, because like the thing that ended up happening, which is one of the things that ended up forcing that change initially, was essentially doing 3 tanks, potentially 3 healers / 2 healers, 1 DPS, and it just ended up not being very interesting.
Yeah, I mean, the professional scene was doing 4 tanks, 2 support.
Were they at one point?
Yes.
Yeah.
No, not at one point. Towards the end of time.
I mean, fair.
Like, from the beginning to the end, that's what they were running. 4 tanks, 2 support. There was the occasional Genji play.
For that first year. I thought that
maybe not.
A little bit as people started to really go, oh, wow, we can just put a bunch of beefy people and no one really needs the DPS because the healing's, especially area healing, is good enough to just keep all the beefy people alive.
Well, especially when you add the combination of Moira and Anna. Anna throws her grenade on 4 tanks. Moira just freaking pees on people.
Yep.
And it's fine.
Or Lucio. I mean, like...
Yeah, exactly. Like, yeah, it was crazy, ultimately.
Yeah. So
I hope that changed.
I don't think they can go back to that.
I don't think they can either. Now, my next question is, when does the esport come back?
I don't think they're willing to invest that amount of money yet, but if the game becomes popular again, maybe.
Yeah. I mean, hopefully they can recapture that magic, because it was definitely there. The magic was there for a little while.
I mean, that's fair. It was. I mean, Overwatch 1, especially for the first, let's say, 2 years, was a great experience. It was a great time. The story content, the characters, the gameplay, the camaraderie, a lot of it was a fantastic time. And they ended up stumbling. And then I think one of the biggest things was they ended up trying to focus on this Overwatch 2 and took away resources and stumbled harder. And then Overwatch 2 stumbled when it came out because it didn't have the things you promised, which alienated more people. So,
yep.
I mean, I have a hard time seeing this not alienate even more people.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. I mean, it's going to be interesting. I mean, some of these characters, they look kind of interesting, but at the exact same time, I'm like, I'm still just a diva main, and you nerfed her into the ground, so I'm still not happy. Like, that's the reality.
Maybe you and I will give it a try at some point if people play it and say it's fun.
Yeah, maybe.
But for anyone that wants to know, you're getting a tank, you're getting a DPS, or 2 DPS and 2 supports. I'm specifically going to point out a Jetpack Cat is one of the supports, which is based off of a longtime community meme. So apparently she can fly and can tow enemy allies through the air.
Oh, God.
I don't know.
I'm just waiting for a Reinhardt to get dropped on a team of people. Like, it just adds to that, like, that feeling of Reinhardt pressing his ult as he's falling off of like a bridge or something.
Could you do a double diva dive bomb where you can carry Reinhardt in, he can do his smash, and with Diva right behind on the ult?
Probably yes. Yeah, actually yes.
And can Reinhardt charge in the air? So if the Jetpack Cat picks him up while he's towing Reinhardt, can he then charge in midair?
Yes.
Well, we don't know. I don't know how it's going to function on the cat.
No. What I'm saying is that I know how he functions in the air.
Yeah.
And the way that he functions in the air, you press that button and he continues to go forward. He falls rather fast, but he does have forward momentum, and he can catch people.
I mean, dude,
the funniest thing I've ever seen was a Reinhardt charging off of a bridge, catching a Pharah mid-air, and slamming her into the wall. Hilarious.
I'm just saying, dude, this sounds like an epic combination. I can't wait to see it. Hopefully it's fun. Here's the thing. I don't have a desire for any game to necessarily crash and burn and die. I want games to be good. Even if the games aren't something I agree with for whatever reason, at the end of the day, it's still better for a game to come out and be good. So hopefully this will happen. I'm concerned about releasing all these heroes at once. I'm concerned about having 10 heroes in a calendar year. That seems like a lot.
I'm concerned with having 5 seasons in a calendar year.
Sure. Yeah. You're talking
that's just too much.
Yeah, because you're talking 7 weeks, essentially?
Yeah, basically. That's shorter than a freaking patch cycle for, and I'm not even talking like full-blown patch cycle for WoW. I'm talking between the release of the patch and then the 0.5 patch and then the 0.7 patch and then the next patch, right? Like, all those steps, it's shorter than even all those steps. That's wild to me.
Main fair.
And we're talking about, I guess we're kind of talking about a shooter, right? Where basically you're in, you're out, done. Right? Whereas I guess WoW is a little bit different. Whatever.
Yeah, we'll see. And as Hera already mentioned, it's going back to 6v6 refresh. It's getting a UI refresh as well. The classes, tank, DPS, support, are being subdivided, although you're still going to have the main classes. Apparently a Conquest meta event, a 5-week faction war event. So, where players pick Overwatch or Talon being the evil version of Overwatch in the universe.
The answer's Talon.
I mean, I'm not gonna lie, I do like me some blue sniper chick, so
that's fair.
Oh man. So apparently there is going to be a Nintendo Switch 2 version, which the previous Switch version was terrible, so see how that goes. They've already got a planned Hello Kitty themed collaboration.
You kind of have to. You're putting in Jetpack Cat, kind of have to.
Yeah. The move away from loot boxes, going to seasons of earnable loot pool skins and shops. So, great. Loot boxes is never a good thing in my mind, especially when you can purchase money to buy loot boxes. If you could only ever earn them and never buy an in-game currency to purchase them with real-world money, then fine. Loot boxes are fine. If at any point, I don't care if there's 2 steps in between, at any point, if you can get from real-world money to loot box purchase, absolutely not.
Yeah. Oh, I agree.
I would prefer outrageous Call of Duty prices of skins than loot boxes. It's just not great. Anyways, interesting notes, some little fun facts. The Jetpack Cat is voiced by Jennifer Hale, famously the FemShep from Mass Effect. There will be some map reduxes, essentially, some structural updates on some of the maps, including reflecting the in-game kind of events along with the story-inspired Talon arcs. So there might be some talent-themed stuff added to the matches, and the endorsement system is being supplemented by the return of the post-match accolades. So cards and voting as well.
Interesting.
Yeah. Could be a good time. I hope it is a good time. I would love to, for a reason, to get back into Overwatch with friends.
Yeah, I agree.
I'm not doing if it's terrible, so we'll see.
Pretty much.
Alrighty, we're running a little low on time, so I think we'll just, if you still want to talk about it, we'll move into your game, but we'll skip me convincing you to praise NVIDIA, so we'll move that to next week instead, so you get a week to bolster up your hatred.
Perfect.
Outside of that, let's finish off with independent study. Alright, Haru, what's been occupying your time?
Alright, so I don't know if you know this.
I don't.
But fair. I took this whole week off from work.
I didn't know that. I actually didn't know that.
Really? I also noticed that you forgot my birthday yesterday. Just kind of toxic.
Excuse me. You usually tell me there's plans. Also, by the way, I'll tell you off air why I forgot about it. But there was some really big news at work.
Fair.
I actually didn't forget about your birthday. You can't really see it because it keeps cutting out, but it's on my calendar. I saw it yesterday. There was, I'll tell you later.
It's all good. It's all good. Event. I'm giving you crap anyway. So anyways, I took off this whole week. I
deserve it. I didn't actually say it. So.
And as a gift to myself, I have been purchasing whatever I see on Steam that I find even remotely interesting. I have purchased 3 separate games in the past 3 days. They are Dispatch, which I beat, Jusant, which I beat, and Cairn, which is the game we'll be talking about today. Cairn is a game that is about climbing a mountain that has never been summited. During the climb, you learn about the people that once lived on that mountain. I won't give too many spoilers. You learn about the main character and her inner thoughts, as well as kind of her life on the ground. The mechanics were interesting, to say the least. They weren't perfect by any stretch of the imagination, but I do feel they were a decent enough simulation of what rock climbing actually is, that it is enjoyable enough, right? No one's going to look at like Farming Sim and say, this is a perfect representation of what actual farming in real life is, right? No one's going to do that.
That's fair.
But you can enjoy it for what it is, and you can feel immersed enough. So much so that during the actual gameplay, I had a knot in my stomach the entire time. This was 15 hours of gameplay, mind you, where it was just a fear of falling forever. The whole 15 hours, and I'm sitting here in a chair doing nothing. Survival, which is the part that you would actually hate, and you'll never touch it because of this. You have to scavenge for food and water on the mountain.
No!
But it makes perfect sense for the type of game that it is. And it becomes even more and more important as the climb gets more and more difficult towards the top, because of the fact that no one else has ever been up there, so it's really hard to scavenge anything. Though at a certain point I was like, just eat the snow. Just eat the snow, please. Grab a cup of snow, put it in your stupid cooking apparatus, and boil it down and drink it.
just do it. Just do it.
And there was a time near the top there that I just kept running out of water because there was just nowhere to get water, despite there being snow all around me. Which was honestly one of my biggest gripes about it near the end. Let's talk about the story. This story was absolutely incredible. Wildly powerful, though some of the people, some reviews that I read really missed a lot of the undertones of the story they weren't so subtle, but they were subtle enough that they were trying to be nonchalant about it, you may say. There are some undertones that I cannot talk about, but I hope that you will be able to infer one of them, and it's mostly because of the algorithms. I hope you'll be able to infer the other undertone after I mention the rest. So some of those undertones were depression, the feeling of, or the lack of fulfillment in life, and addiction. Those are kind of the major ones. Yeah. And I'm sure all of you can think of one more that follows that trend.
This looks really beautiful too.
It was a gorgeous game. It was very gorgeous.
Obviously stylized, but
oh yeah, good. For sure. It's not intended to be realistic by any stretch of the imagination. It's also like slightly in the future. No, you have this like cute little climb bot thing that goes around with you, which is absolutely adorable. Now, as I know you know, Plague, but I consider myself to be a rather emotional person in general.
Sure.
I'm very empathic, especially when it comes to like books and TV shows, things like that. I find myself, listening to a book in audiobook form or watching some kind of show, and I just start tearing up, start like just bawling, and then Demi looks over at me and she's like, "What's happening?" But I find it pretty rare for a game to be able to impact me as hard as a book or a TV show. Largely because I think there's more mechanical involvement, and it's usually less about the story for me, and it's more about the actual involvement of like playing the game, mechanically playing the game. But this game destroyed me at the end.
Did it really?
Yes. It's probably due to the similarities between myself and the main character's feelings, from like, my past life effectively. But I ended the game. I got to the ending of the game and just started bawling.
Oh, man.
It completely destroyed me. And it was one of those things where I was like, man, I would buy this game again. Like that's crazy.
Pretty high praise.
I wanted to double the amount of money that I gave to them, which is only $30, mind you. I actually think it was like $25 because there was some kind of like summit package. If you had Peak, you got a bundle discount and the discount for owning Peak already. But like if they released another map, regardless, I would double it. Like I would pay them the amount that I paid for the game for that DLC again to enjoy a whole nother climb. It's that crazy to me.
Dang.
I wouldn't consider it a difficult game, but that's not really saying much coming from someone at my level. I don't find most games difficult. And I didn't play it on the hardest difficulty, largely because the only difference between the hardest difficulty and the difficulty that I did play on was permadeath, meaning you had to start from the very bottom again.
Yeah, I would not do that.
Yeah, I didn't want to do it either.
I didn't want to do it, but I did it.
Yeah, I didn't do it.
Oh, okay. I thought you did.
No.
My bad.
No. I did not play on the hardest difficulty. Largely because the only difference was that permadeath. There was no other difference. And there were a couple of times, I think I ended up dying like twice, ultimately. And it was near the top. So if I had died and it was permadeath, and I just would have quit. Like I know it. I know for sure I would have just quit. So yeah. But ultimately, God, amazing game. I can't recommend it enough. If you like games with amazing story, it has a story mode where it simplifies the climbing. So you can just go. I'm pretty sure it simplifies the survival aspects too. If you just want to experience the story, you'll probably get through it in, 6 hours. It took me 15, but that's because I was actually engaging with the climbing system and exploring everything. And I never lost the wonder of what's in that crevice, what's in that cave, you know, what's in that doorway. There shouldn't be a doorway on a mountain. What's it there for? Right? I never lost that wonder during this gameplay session. And I even split the session up between 2 days because I ended up playing like 12-ish hours one day. And then I was like, all right, it's 1 a.m. I got to go to bed. and I ultimately finished the ending summit on the next day, and it was like a 3-hour endeavor by itself. Plenty of save points along the way. So if you ever have to just drop it, you're not like me. You can't just spend 12 hours on a game in a day. Granted, it was the day before my birthday, and like I said, I took off this whole week, so no one's bothering me. No one can bother me. I can just ignore them freely. Yeah, so it's I rarely recommend games to this degree. But like I said, I would have paid $60 for this game had I known.
I mean, that's a high recommendation. I've already added it to my wish list because clearly this seems like an emotional journey and a piece of art. So
it really was. Especially, I would say, if you're not neurotypical. No. If you tend to be on a neurodivergent scale, it tends to be, it's probably going to hit a little bit harder. And I do think that the people who commented and reviewed the game saying that the main character was emotionless and their partner would have never let them go on the climb. I don't know about you, but like, there's not a partner in this world that would ever have been able to stop me from doing something that I truly wanted to do. That's you know, fair. Like, I don't know about you, but like, if some partner was like, hey, I need you to stop playing WoW, it's affecting our relationship, my response would be, you knew what you were getting into from the beginning.
Well, I feel like your response would be, well, please explain. And
well,
let's
sure.
talk about this together.
I was skipping all that part.
I was going to say, before you immediately go there, I feel like you might try to figure out where it's coming from first.
Yeah. But I was skipping all the conversation bits and ultimately just...
Don't do that. That's how problems happen.
You don't skip them in real life, but you skip them when trying to shorten a scene.
Oh, okay. Yeah, but don't do
that. Anyways, yeah, like I
think it'll have to be heavily on sale for me because I'm not a big fan of the survival stuff. But if it ever goes on like a super big sale, I wouldn't mind giving it a go. Yeah,
and honestly, I didn't find the survival stuff to be too impactful, except for near the very end. And largely, and this really isn't a spoiler, but largely because that the survival aspect gets harder at the end.
That's fair.
And like I said, I'm pretty sure the story mode, I'd have to relaunch it, but the story mode, like I said, just completely nullifies the climbing aspect. And I'm pretty sure it nullifies the survival aspect as well. My recommendation for you, if you do end up getting into this, when you get about halfway up the mountain, start boiling your water. And it's not because it's tainted or anything like that. It's because you need warmth.
I mean, I did spit in it. So.
That's fair.
All right. Well, with that note, go out there, put that on your wish list, or pick it up if you want that experience that Haru has gone through. It does seem like a good time and worth your money. But unless you have any other comments, I think that's all we have for today. Alrighty, people, close those books and pack those bags. That's all we have time for today. And even though I missed it yesterday, I do want to wish Haru a happy birthday. We hope you enjoy your time off. Look forward to your participation the next time. And if I want to leave you with one thing to think about, it's that we actually recorded on my birthday. So if anyone can find the transcripts of him wishing me a happy birthday, you let me know.
That's fair. That's fair.
Anyways, peace out, people.
See ya.